Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss the fourth unit of counseling psychology, that is psychological tests used in counseling process. Here we discuss what are the nature and characteristics of psychological tests which are used in counseling, and what are the types of psychological tests used in counseling, and at the same time what are the limitations these psychological tests are having. We'll discuss in detail in this present session. Coming to the nature of psychological tests, there are variety of psychological tests which are developed during the last century and in the present century, and nowadays we are getting more than thousands of psychological tests which are available on the internet. But traditionally we are using the paper pencil tests, and these tests are devised by the Western foreign psychologists, and gradually they are adapted to the Indian situations, and many of these were translated and they are modified according to the needs of Indian situation. And these psychological tests are used to assess the human behavior, and they are also used to understand the human behavior. At the same time, they are used to understand the human problems. What are the possible problems the individual is facing in the present situation, and to understand the level of maladjustment which the individual is having with his family, with his friends, with the society, with his school or college. All these things can be traced by using psychological tests, and these tests greatly help us in the process of counseling, where we assess the individual's level, where he is or where she is, to identify their need of counseling. These psychological tests they help. And what are the behavioral emotional problems the individual is having, to assess those problems also these psychological tests will help. And coming to the types of psychological tests, mainly we use 3 to 4 types of tests in counseling. The psychological tests which are used in the counseling process are mainly 3 to 4 types. They are interest tests, and they are personality tests, and they are intelligence tests. Broadly, and coming to the interest tests, there are vocational interest tests where Strong's vocational interest blank and Patel and Bansal vocational interest test, which are widely used in the college experiments, Kudder's vocational interest test, and Hollander's vocational selection scale. All these are going to measure the vocational interest of an individual, and these interest tests greatly help in the process of career counseling or vocational counseling on the basis of the interest the subject or the individual or the client is having. And coming to the personality tests, the second part of these tests are personality tests. Personality tests are rating scales, inventories, adjustment tests, and situational reaction tests. Popularly used H.M. Bell's adjustment inventory, Eisen's personality inventory, and B. Krishnan's introvert, extrovert, or schizotype, cyclotype test, and MPI, Mysore personality inventory, 16 PF. All these are the personality tests which are used to assess the individual's personality level. Apart from these, we also use projective techniques. Mainly in the projective techniques, we have Rorschach ink blot test and Murray's thematic apperception test and sentence completion test, word association test. These are also used in the process of personality assessment. But the interpretation, assessment of these projective techniques is very difficult because they are mostly used in clinical setting. They are mostly used in the clinical psychologists, used by clinical psychologists and psychotherapists. And coming to the last part of the types of psychological tests, that is intelligence tests. Intelligence tests are classified as verbal intelligence test, non-verbal intelligence test, and performance tests. And once again, we classify the intelligence test into speed test and power test, individual test, group test, and adults test, children's test. Like this, we classify these tests. Apart from intelligence tests, we also use a skill test or aptitude test. Aptitude tests are greatly help in the process of identifying the aptitude which the individual is having. Mainly differential aptitude test, where we have clerical aptitude test, mechanical aptitude test, numerical aptitude test, abstract reasoning, spatial relationship, language usage. Like this, there are 7 different aptitude tests which are found in DAT. At the same time, we also use scholastic aptitude test, where we can assess the academic level or scholastic level of the client. On the basis of these results, we can counsel for his vocational life, or we can help him to choose a particular vocation or career. And coming to the last part of this unit, that is uses and limitations of psychological tests. There is a great use of psychological tests in the field of counseling. Psychological tests help to procure, to get the information from the clients, and they help in understanding the problems of the individual. They also help the counselor to assess the interests and aptitudes of an individual. On the basis of these, the counselor can counsel him to go for particular occasions. And we can also predict about the future of